What's going on, everybody? You see a Jaguar back with GenJag.com, and free agency is approaching as this Tuesday, March 6th, is the deadline to sign and put a franchise tag on one of your own in-house players. And next week, we have the actual free agency period opening. And there are two big free agents on the Jaguars that everybody is really debating whether we will re-sign or let walk in free agency. And that is wide receiver Allen Robinson and nickel cornerback Aaron Colvin. Now, when this whole free agency kind of talk began, it seemed like Allen Robinson was the guy that we were going to re-sign, and then Aaron Colvin was going to be the person that will walk due to money concerns, and another team will be able to sign Aaron Colvin to more money than the Jaguars. But it seems like the course is kind of reversed. It seems like it's almost assumed that Allen Robinson is going to walk and Aaron Colvin is going to stay on the Jaguars. This is at least the gospel between Jaguar senior writer John Oehser and beat writer for the Florida Times-Union Ryan O'Halloran. So in this video, I want to discuss the situations between these two guys. Let's get it.
It's a foot race. Robinson and Browner, and it's Robinson who wins it. Touchdown, Jacksonville. His 14th win. Bortles with time, looking deep for Robinson.
Now, I've been preaching this whole season how much I've been wanting to bring Allen Robinson back. I just think that when you looked at our offense this season, we were really missing that impact go-to receiver. As you know, we had veterans like Allen Hurns and Marquise Lee that were, injured or hobbled all throughout the year. And then you also had a couple of rookies between Keelan Cole and Dede Westbrook. Our receiving core this season really did not strike much fear in the opposition. I know a lot of people give, the team a hard time just because they seem like they were conservative at moments, like kneeing the ball with 50 seconds left in the first half of the AFC Championship game and things like that. But there are some rumors out there that it's not that they didn't trust Blake Bortles, it's that they didn't trust the receiving weapons that was on the offense to really win one-on-one battles. And then one thing that happens when Allen Robinson is on the field is he draws a lot of respect from opponents. He draws double teams. He brings the cornerback over and then the safety to come over. He's actually a player that will strike fear in the opposition and a guy that teams will have to game plan for. Allen Robinson is a guy that I'm really high on, and I think he's going to be a guy that will turn into a superstar in this league. If you look at 2015, he had a 14-touchdown, 1,400-yard season. In 2016, you could say he regressed a little bit, but my thing on the whole situation was our offense was terrible. He was not put up in a good situation. You had Blake Bortles, who was mechanically terrible that year. He was basically throwing helicopters, balls off of people's feet, and we had a running game that was also pitiful. Chris Ivory and TJ Yelling are two starting running backs combined for 904 yards rushing. It just wasn't a good situation for the offense, and it's really unfair to discredit Allen Robinson because of that season that he had in 2016. And in 2017, he was poised for a huge year. He was making all kinds of crazy catches in preseason, training camps and stuff like that. And obviously, he was going to a contract year, so we really all thought that he was going to break out and be huge. Unfortunately, we all saw what happened with Allen Robinson. Basically, after his first catch, he tore his ACL, and he was out the rest of the season. Now, it's rough because, with all season we were definitely missing that key player, and I really thought that this is going to be a player that we would have to re-sign or else we would just leave a huge hole on our roster. Now, the franchise tag window is 2 days away. It's coming up on Tuesday, March 6th, so it's really looking like we're not going to be putting a franchise tag on him, and the longer this whole thing goes on, the less likely we are going to be with getting him without a long-term deal. And if this guy hits the open market, he's probably going to be gone. I mean, you have teams out there with young quarterbacks that need weapons to go around him. You look at the 49ers just signing Garoppolo. They were able to bring in a guy like Allen Robinson. That would be huge for the team. You look at the Bears and see Mitch Trubisky. There's just so many reasonable spots for him to land, and he's by far the best wide receiver on a free agent market. If we were to put the franchise tag on him, it'd be a one-year deal with taking $15 million off the cap for this season. And what we could potentially do is put a transition tag on him, which is basically the average of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. And what that does is he's able to go negotiate with other teams, and once they put a deal on him, the Jaguars would have the option to match it. This happened I think in 2015 or 2014 offseason when Alex Mack came and visited the Jaguars from the Cleveland Browns, and we signed him to an offer sheet, and then the Browns matched it, meaning he would be on the Browns under the deal that the Jaguars gave him. Now, Jaguars could potentially do that, but if they feel like his number is going to be so outrageous to where we're not going to be able to match it, then it would not be a good deal, just because what you do is you give up supplementary draft picks, which Jaguars haven't had much in the past, several seasons, just because to get compensatory picks, you have to basically have more talent leave than the talent that you gain. Like you'll see, Super Bowl teams like the Broncos and stuff getting this kind of stuff. And, the Jaguars spend so much money in free agency every year where our roster only gets better. That could be something that we're in line for in the next few years. So, it would suck to lose a 4th or 5th round pick for a guy like this. So, Allen Robinson, there's a very, very good chance that he is going to be gone in free agency. And that stinks. It's going to, create a huge hole on our team. And, I don't want to re-sign a guy like Marquise Lee. I don't. And if that happens, I'm going to be a little upset. So if the Jaguars don't re-sign Allen Robinson, then we very well will be in play to draft a wide receiver in the early rounds of the draft. Maybe like a Cortland Sutton in the 1st round out of SMU, or an Anthony Miller in the 2nd round out of Memphis. We'll see what goes on with that. And another big thing that's picking up a lot of momentum is the fact that we may be re-signing Aaron Colvin to a deal. Now, this whole offseason I was kind of downplaying this just because he's a nickel cornerback. He played 66.5% of snaps this season, and if one team sees this guy as a potential #1 cornerback, then he's going to outprice us. I mean, if you look at us, we're paying a lot of money to A.J. Boye. In a couple years, Jalen Ramsey is going to become the richest cornerback in the NFL, and it's just a lot of money to tie up on a nickel cornerback. Now, Aaron Colvin has spoke upon the opportunity to come back to Jacksonville and just say how they could build a dynasty and this defense could be great and this, and that. But, Aaron Colvin, he's not in a position to take a hometown discount. He was a 4th round pick. He wasn't making big 1st round pick money. And you never know when this opportunity will come up again where he could sign a fat deal. This is for his first contract opportunity, and you want to make as much money as you can. And then players also are pretty confident, have pretty high egos in themselves, and as long as Aaron Colvin is on this team, and and A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey are as well, he's always going to be in the shadow of those two guys. So, you would think that he'd be a lot more appreciated, and he'd have a lot fatter of a paycheck if he were to go somewhere else. But the thing about Aaron Colvin, if he does walk in free agency, you may be able to get another person to slide in that position to kind of replace his spot, but you're not going to be able to replace his production. He is great. I mean, honestly, Jaguar fans should hate Aaron Colvin, and I say that because you have teams that are going to try to be throwing away from Jalen Ramsey. You're going to have teams that are trying to throw away from A.J. Boye. And what are they going to do? They're going to pick on that other guy. But the thing about Aaron Colvin, he didn't allow a single touchdown in 2017. Him and Marcus Lattimore, the guy out of the Saints, were the only players to do that. And like a player like that could very well be exposed when you have 2 all-pro cornerbacks on the team. Aaron Colvin is not only great at cover, but he's also really, really good at tackling. He has so many tackles for losses. He's very good when he blitzes them on sacks and stuff like that. And that's kind of rare out of cornerbacks. Cornerbacks aren't usually always about getting down and dirty and getting these guys to the ground. And that's what Aaron Colvin provides. And there's really not going to be any replacing when it comes to his production. We are a team that prides ourselves on our defense, and as long as our defense is really, really good, we're probably going to be a really, really good team. So, it could be a very well possibility that they do re-sign Aaron Colvin, but, if he sees himself as #1 cornerback and another team does as well, then we are probably going to be outpriced. This is a player's market, and they tend to get a lot more money than we really project them to get. Now, no matter what, whether it's Allen Robinson or Aaron Colvin, whichever players do walk, it's going to leave a hole at their position that we are going to have to address either in the early rounds of the draft or get some kind of replacement level type player in free agency. So that's the end of my video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Before I sign out, I want to give a quick shout out to my man JFish TV. He recently got together with Jaguars defensive end Dawuane Smoot and did kind of a, played man with him and kind of interviewed him in a way, but it was pretty cool because, you're kind of having casual conversation as opposed to player talk when they're just like, yeah, man, we work hard, we do everything for the team. But yeah, I mean, they got together, played some Madden, and it was a pretty cool interview, so I'll put that down in the link below. And yeah, with all that said, this is UC at Jaguar with JimJag.com and Phantom, and I'm out.